And welcome back, everybody, to another edition of Benched with Bubba, episode 42. Going to do a little U.S. Open recap and talk much more golf, stuff coming up, some DraftKings, FanDuel over the weekend, latest news, all kinds of good stuff. And in order to do that, bringing in my buddy, once again, Jesse. You can find him on Twitter at DFSGolfGods. Jesse, how we doing?
Doing well, Bubba. Good to be here again. Glad to be back. Another week over, another major.
Yep. Another major in the book, and it was an interesting one, and that's why I'm glad we're recapping it. We recapped the Masters, and that was one hell of a recap because it was a hell of a weekend. Sergio doing his thing and everything. This was a different feel to it. It was great. We'll get into Brooks and all of that later. That was awesome. It had a different vibe, like the Open usually does, I guess, but it just had a different vibe from your typical Open also, which we'll get to. First off, let's get into Aaron Hills. Everyone was talking about it's going to be this long track. The wind's going to be horrible. The fescue this, fescue that. I'm a crybaby. We're going to cut the fescue. It's raining. All kinds of problems. And then these guys come out and Fowler shoots 7 under on the opening day, and the winning score is 16. We've got a little wind on Sunday. Overall, what was your kind of feelings on the course as a whole?
Going into it, I just didn't see it playing that difficult, and it ended up being easier than what I even thought, because I thought that the greens and running, maybe at a 14 on the stem or something like that would make it more difficult than it was. But a lot of things happened along the way, which kind of made it easier. Big news coming into the week before it even started on Thursday, they cut down some of the fescue. So right out the gate there, they cut back about 3 or 4 or 5 yards on some holes. And then a lot of rain, softened the golf course up, softened the greens up. They couldn't get hard. I'm guessing they don't have a sub-air system there like they do with the Masters, where they can just make them hard if they want to. And then also no wind. I mean, the wind just wasn't as big of a factor as they, thought it would be. And I saw somebody say that the course itself is set up to be windy and to play in the wind. And it just never materialized. I don't think like the USGA thought in their head. I think if they had to do it over, they would narrow those fairways down, because even hitting in the second cut of rough was penile enough to make it hard to make a par from even the first cut of rough. So it was just, it was a lot easier than what we anticipated from a U.S. Open course. I mean, but it is what it is. I still enjoyed watching golf all week.
Yeah, and that's the basics of it. Everyone wanted to have their opinion on it because, that's what everybody does these days. Heck, that's what we're doing right now. But but it was still really good golf. I guess what it came down to is, everyone thinks U.S. Open, and we want that weekend where we see these guys play like us, where they go out there and they struggle, and we see more bogeys than birdies, and
right.
We didn't see that, and it pissed people off. And I mentioned it on the pod last week when I said it's a links course. And if people think about it, we'll talk about the Open coming up, the next major. Almost every Open you go to is a links course. And if there's really no bad weather, they open up for scoring galore.
Right.
That's what they do. Like, even a hacker like me who's not that great at golf, you put me on a links course with good weather, I can shoot bogey golf. It's really not – and these guys are the best of the best. So it shouldn't have been a big surprise to these guys in the grand scheme of things. I thought it was great. Like you said, the course was really nice.
Beautiful.
I thought it was beautiful for being 12 years old. I learned a lot about it that I didn't know even after all this talk we did and other podcasts and everything. 12 years old to do what they've done there is remarkable. I thought it was pretty impressive. Were you surprised by how many of the big names missed the cut on the weekend?
Yes. Yeah, I was. I mean, I didn't expect DJ, Rory, Jason Day to not be there on Sunday. But, you know, they started off terrible and just weren't really able to recover on Friday. And then, you know, you even had guys like Justin Rose. He missed the cut on the number. Henrik Stenson bogeyed the last hole, finished 3 over to miss. Francisco Molinari, who was a popular play in DFS world, missed as well. So, yeah, I was very surprised. You know, typically these golf courses bring out the cream of the crop. You know, I mean, the cream rises to the top kind of thing. And it just didn't happen. It didn't materialize this year like it has in years past. And so, but I mean, that's also part of it. It's really weird when you think about it. You know, you think about how good of a driver of the golf ball Rory and DJ are, and they couldn't hit these fairways enough to go out and make pars and make the cut at +2. It amazes me. I mean, Rory kind of turned it on there in the back nine on Friday, but it wasn't good enough to make the cut. So, you know, it's been a weird year. I mean, overall in golf, you know, and this just kind of is the cherry on top, I guess.
Yeah, a couple things out of that. You said the weird year it has, because it started out so chalky, like incredibly chalky. And then the last few months, especially when you talk majors, it's been the young guns, the kind of out of nowheres. I saw a stat. The last 7 majors were all first-time winners. You have Day, Willett, DJ, Stenson, Walker, Sergio, and Koepka, all first-time winners of majors, which is pretty remarkable if you really think about it, because, like, as you know and many know, the pressure on these guys to win a major, that's awesome. And then the other thing I think is outstanding. I love Rory sitting down on, I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday, and making the comment that, hey, these fairways are 60 feet long, wide, and if we can't hit them, well, we're not the best in the world, that kind of comment. And then he goes out there, and I was doing something. I come back to Twitter, and there's a 4-picture thing. It's him looking down in the fescue for his ball with like a disgust, him swinging, him looking back down at the ball, and then him looking forward with this look on his face like crap. It was just perfect. It was perfect.
He said, if you know the fairways are 60 yards wide, if you can't hit them, you might as well pack your bags. And that was a pretty good little joke there on Friday, as he missed the cut as he was packing his bags and he couldn't hit the 60-yard wide fairways. I mean, it was not what I anticipated at all going into it. And we'll talk a little bit more about it, but it was very surprising, put it that way.
No, it was. And just like you said, to some, it's disappointing because you want the big names. You know, to Fox, it was probably disappointing. But to the golf fans, it was still great golf. And if you're a golf fan, you like guys like Brooks Koepka. You like these guys. Like we've talked about, especially in the DFS world, Koepka's been on the list for a long time. This guy has been so close. He started out the year, he just had something off. But he finished last year playing really good golf. And then he's found it. We've talked about it. He's found it the last month or so. And he showed it. He played really, really good. Outside of Brooks, who we will dig into more, what are some of the bigger surprise performances of the week? Because there's definitely going to be a handful you could pick from at Erin Hills.
I mean, I would just, if you want to name them all, just go to the top of the leaderboard and just start with number 1 and go all the way down. Ricky is about the only one that I can really, say he, quote unquote, should be there. But you got guys like Brian Harmon, who it's amazing to me that he can shoot 12 under at a U.S. Open, but missed the cut at another little smaller tournament a couple weeks ago. And they were talking about him, Brian Harmon in particular, on Sunday as he bogeyed the last hole and about how much money it was going to cost him. And we'll talk a little bit more about the coverage later, but they're like, oh, it's going to cost him so much money. Well, he just won another tournament, so it's not that huge of a deal to him, but it is a huge deal for him to come in second at the U.S. Open because he's never contended in a major in his life. I had to hear about that. Apparently on the U.S. Open podcast, I said to completely fade Tommy Fleetwood. I said I was fading Tommy Fleetwood because he burned me at the Masters, if you remember. I don't know if I recommended everybody else to fade him, but my best friend who lives next door to me, we were sitting there watching it as Tommy Fleetwood was going low, and he just kept digging into me about, oh, yeah, you should fade Fleetwood. Oh, yeah, because he took him out of a lineup apparently as he was listening to our podcast. So that was awesome. That was really fun. And then at one point, Xander Schauffele was leading the U.S. Open. I mean, and he finishes 5th. It's like, what is going on here? And then another guy, Trey Mullinax. And I actually mentioned, I think both of these on our podcast we did back in January to kind of preview the whole entire year about these were some up-and-coming golfers, but I didn't pay any attention to them this week because they were nowhere on my radar. So, yeah, I mean, pretty much the whole entire top 10, top 12. It's just it was a weird week. You know, your boy Patrick Reed. I don't know if you played him any last week, but we talked about him, and I said a firm no. And when he went low, I think it was on Friday, I just was really wanting to punch myself.
Yeah, it was such a tilting week. It was because it's guys we've loved in the past that have burned us. It was like a woman scorned week. It was
Charlie Hoffman.
Just look at
my God. Like I play him every now and again, but I can't hardly because he's always fading on Sundays. Of course, he did the same thing at the Masters. He was not on my radar at all, and he's just out there just making every putt on the weekend. I'm like, how is this happening? It's not supposed to happen. But it did.
Yeah. Like Bill Haas. He's like a cut maker. He's a cash game play. No, he finishes 5th at the U.S. Open.
Yeah, back in 5.
I was right there with you on Tommy Fleetwood. I said the same thing. I said I hate him because of what he did at the Masters. I had none of him, so that one hurt. I've used Trey Mullinax so many times this year because of what we talked about on that opening pod.
Yep.
At small tournaments, I had none of him this week. It was just so many things that just – J.B. Holmes, of course, decides to show up this week and not burn everybody. Justin Thomas was one of the most predictable things you could see that final round. That's just JT. That's JT to it.
I saw that coming too, but the round on Saturday was
amazing.
Insane. He hit 2 of the best 3s I've ever seen hit in my whole entire life, and I've watched Tiger Woods play almost every round he ever played.
Yeah, those shots he made out of the fescue a couple times, my goodness.
Yeah, that too.
He was doing things. Whew.
He was unconscious. I mean, just completely blacked out on Saturday. I mean, you can't do that in the U.S. Open.
you saw him when he left the 18th green. He just sat down with his putter in his hand, like he had to literally sit there and just decompress right there on the spot.
that was his eagle putt. He hit it in there to 9 feet or whatever, 8 feet on 18 in his eagle putt. He had to sit down and like shake out his hands, like, oh my God, is this really happening, kind of thing. And he drained it. I think what did he shoot? 62, I think. No, 63, which is the lowest score ever at the U.S. Open.
And the last 2 things I want to mention that burns both of us is our picks to win came out on fire, and they Sergio just coasted. They both went eagle out the gate. We were both just so pumped, like fireworks shooting off. And Sergio just coast to it. Yeah, Sergio's coast to a 4-under, and then Casey, because I was heavy on him too. I loved him. His weekend was just Casey and Kisner's weekends destroyed my DFS lineups. I still barely cashed, but they could have been huge, disastrous. And we'll get into how they could have been huge too.
I'll talk about it a little bit later, but it was Casey's 2 triples. I mean, if he doesn't take those 2 triples, he finishes 8 under, which is a tie for 9th, which is worth a lot more money if you played him. But he made 2 triples. So,
all right, let's get into one of the fun, controversial things. As always, come U.S. Open time, Fox gets golf. They're not doing football. They're not doing baseball. They're doing golf. Joe Buck, who basically admitted on Monday that he knows nothing about golf, is their lead coverage guy. Azinger is pretty solid. I'll say that much. He's not bad. I believe it was it Darren Clark was in there?
Darren Clark was on there a little bit. Yeah, they didn't have him a whole lot, but he was on there.
He was on FS1 a lot. He should have been on TV a lot more. What was your overall thoughts on the Fox coverage?
I actually enjoy watching. Now, I'm just going to say watching, not listening. Watching golf when Fox does it, because they're doing different things that CBS and NBC refuse to catch on to, which is A, having a tracer on every ball, and then B, having the hole right next to it so you know if it's going in the right spot or not. And that's particularly obviously very much needed on a U.S. Open course where you can get in trouble really easy. But it's really fun to watch it that way. And then they showed, for the majority, 90% of what they showed were golf shots, which is something that CBS refuses to do. And NBC is doing a better job at, but they showed a lot of golf, which is the reason why I watch golf, is to watch people hit golf shots. So for their watching wise, for the eye, it was awesome. I can't deal with their commentators half the time. Joe Buck had messed up a few things, especially with Brooks's girlfriend at the end, which whatever, I know you're on live TV, not really dealing with that. But getting back to Brian Harman, they were talking about like basically this putt for Brian Harman, which is probably worth a couple $100,000. I'm not really sure exactly how much him making that last bogey cost him, but he just made $1 million at the Wells Fargo. And they're acting like if he doesn't make this putt, he's not going to be able to eat tomorrow. So it's just the kind of the lack of back knowledge of the guys is what irks me. But they don't do it week in and week out. So I guess they just don't do enough homework. I don't know. But, that's one thing you should know is Brian Harman just won the Wells Fargo. So it's not like he's hurting for money. He just, he's a millionaire. So it's just weird.
I just pulled it up. Tying for second, him and Hideki both got $1,052,000. Sorry, automatic advertisements. Gotta love them. $1,052,000 each. So I think he's okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's still another $1 million in his pocket. It was just strange that they were kind of acting like that, and then they did a few other missed calls and just weird stuff. But to the eye, man, I mean, their first year was awful. Last year got better. This year, I think, got even better. And I think they'll keep innovating. I hope they do anyways. And I hope that CBS and NBC follow along with the watching aspect of it. So yeah, overall, I give them a B. I think they did a pretty good job.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that. I think the viewing wise was phenomenal. And like what you said is you like watching it. That's almost how I feel about their NFL and MLB too. I can't stand most of their booth guys, but put me on mute, I'm in. Like, I'll watch their product. They do a pretty good job at that. And for golf, like you said, we tune in to watch golf. If I can't watch golf, I'll just check the leaderboard on my phone, or I'll follow the PGA birdies on Twitter and get all the information I need. I don't need to freaking watch, Jim Nance in a booth tell me what's going on. But and that shot tracer thing that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, pretty cool. I mean, they're on point. They on every hole, and that's the way it should be, because I want to know where the ball's going.
Yep. If the technology's there, we should have it. It's that simple. It's really awesome. I think they did a really good job. I'm curious to see if they start getting more tournaments. I doubt they will, just because of the stranglehold these other companies have, but you never know. It will be interesting to see. The other thing I heard, and I read on some stuff, I can't remember the guy's name. He's like their lead interview guy when they come off the course after their rounds and whatnot. He was interviewing so many people. I guess he interviewed Brooks after the second round, and this is how dedicated they were to the actual live footage. Like, over half of the interviews he did never made it to TV because they kept having to break away to actual round coverage, which was awesome. Because for a fact CBS or NBC would have said, nope, we're playing the interview. For a fact, it would have happened.
And you know what? It's okay if I listen to the interview while I'm watching golf shots, but let's watch golf. Let's don't interview golfers.
Put Brooks in a small picture in the bottom right corner or something. That's fine.
Totally fine. I'll be totally cool with that.
But and the interview, I hope they put it somewhere because the clip they played, it was a total Brooks thing, just like something common if I'm just chilling or something. He was so relaxed after 2 rounds. It was hilarious. It was just Brooks. You should have known he was going to come out and win after the comments he made in that clip. It was unbelievable. But yeah, so yeah, overall, really good stuff. Last thing, should Aaron Hills get another shot at the U.S. Open?
Yeah, I think they probably could/should. I think if the USGA went back, they would make the fairways, not as wide. Narrow them down and make it more of a U.S. Open type of golf course. But there was a lot of cool holes on that golf course, and it was fun to watch golf on it, even if it was, waste management style golf. It was still fun to watch. So I could see it going back. I think they'll have a debate about that, but I like it when they go to new courses. I like it when they go to public courses, so I hope they keep it in rotation.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing you said right there. I like when they go to public courses. I think it's even better for the viewer, the fan, when they can relate that much more than, heck, now, hey, I can go actually play this place. Like, right. Sure, the Masters is that much better because there's a good chance most of us will never even play it, let alone possibly step foot into Augusta. But like Aaron Hills, literally, if I want to hop on a plane or I can make a reservation for like a tee time for maybe 3 or 4 months from now. I don't know what their policy is, but I can make this happen.
Right.
Which makes it that much more cool. So there's a lot to like about it.
I don't know if you saw the next day where did you see the next day where JJ Watt, I think he shot like 120 on it or something, and everybody else he played with was like 130, 140. So it's not an easy golf.
Oh no, it's not easy at all. The same Fox analyst guy that they were saying, he played the course because he wanted to get to know it before he interviewed guys. He played it like 6 months ago and the weather was fine, and he shot like a 77. He's like a 6 or 7 handicap. Mm-hmm. But then he came back out and played it last weekend when a lot of the guys were practicing and it was windier. And he said just the wind change alone, he shot a 90. So he says they weren't kidding. If it's windy, that course gets brutal.
Yeah.
So something to think about. It could be worth it in the future. You can't predict the weather, folks.
No.
Let's talk Brooks Koepka. The guy's amazing. Well, not amazing. That might be the wrong word, but he's very impressive. He's super young. Long ways to go for the kid. What are your thoughts on his overall performance winning his first major at the 117th U.S. Open?
Yeah, I think he tied Rory for the lowest under par at 16. He never did get to 17, which is the lowest anybody's ever gotten to at a U.S. Open. But either way, he shot all 4 rounds under par, and it was it got pretty ridiculous on Sunday when I think he birdied 3 straight. I think he birdied 16, 15, and 14, 15, and 16. Hit the 16 under par. And at that point, it was just like, this is, there's nobody's going to catch him. And it was a impressive performance, to say the least. And then, of course, he steps up on 18 and just hits a 3-wood, like 350 right down the middle. Wind at the back, but one way or the other, just a straight bullet right down the middle. And that's pretty impressive to do whenever you're in the lead at the U.S. Open on your last hole. I probably block that way right and or duck hook it. So, but he's just got that cool, calm demeanor about him. And I knew that if he was in that type of position, like he's not the kind of guy who's going to choke it away, because I think he really has a I don't care attitude. And, but at the same time, he probably has a pretty good competitive spirit and nature. I think all these guys do, or else you wouldn't even be there. And so that I don't care attitude with that competitiveness was a good mix, especially on a U.S. Open golf course. So very impressive. I'm very salty that I didn't play him more in DraftKings, in fantasy, but it is what it is at this point. So I'm happy for him.
Yeah, it was impressive. That 3-wood, he hit that laser, which, by the way, that shot tracer made it that much more impressive. If you those that were watching it live, the guys in the booth, the pros realized already how awesome that was going to be because of the shot tracer. Like, oh, that's the kind of 3-wood that's going to go a long ways because it's going to roll. And it was just freaking awesome. I saw somewhere that 3-wood was his longest drive of the entire tournament.
There's a good chance. I mean, he smoked it 350 right down the middle. Looking at it right now, it was, excuse me, shortchanged a little bit, 379.3 yards. That hole was playing that day, 681, and he had 273 into the hole. I'm pretty sure he hit an iron, and he landed short, but yeah, I mean, just ridiculous on that last hole. But, you know, just overall, man, just to go out on a final round of a major in the lead. Well, I think he was one shot off the lead, and he shoots 67 on a Sunday at the U.S. Open. Very impressive, very, very impressive. Not very many people can say they've ever shot 67, 5 under, or even 3 under probably at a U.S. Open on a Sunday.
Yeah, and it's not bad it's your first career major, and it's only your second career win. So, second career PGA Tour victory, technically. I guess he's got 6 internationals I'm looking at right now, but 2 career wins, basically. Just awesome stuff. Do you think now, because like I said earlier, he's been playing really, really well the last month or so. Do you think, we've seen guys now that they finally get that major, they go on runs. Do you think he's going to go on a run here, maybe not like winning run, but a consistent, maybe top 10, 15 type guy for a while now?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see any reason why he wouldn't. It just gives him more confidence. Like I said, he has that attitude where basically it's almost like he could care less. But at the same time, like I said, he's competitive, I'm sure, enough to compete. So, I mean, I'll be interested to see how well he does. I don't know if he's playing before the British Open. I would imagine he would, but be interested to see, what kind of fire he has to come back out and compete. I said the same thing about Sergio, and Sergio hadn't done anything since the Masters. So I guess the short answer to that is I don't know.
We talked about some of those young guns like Mullinax and Schauffele that were on top of the leaderboard there. And I mentioned how the last 7 major winners have been first-timers. We've seen a lot of young guys do really, really, really well this year. Who do you think the next guy is that's going to step up? Not necessarily, win a major. If you want to go that route, you can. But who's the next guy that's going to really step up and make his, next name for himself?
Yeah, I mean, as far as like a guy who's maybe not as well known, I would be looking at, guys like Jamie Lovemark. He had a really good showing, and he's been a guy who has played well in certain stretches, but kind of just gets a little wobbly off the tee, I guess is the best way to put it. I like his game a lot, but he's just never been able to kind of put everything together at the same time. But he was kind of a popular pick last week too, which is kind of odd for me. But either way, I mean, you've also got Peter Uihlein. He's been a kind of a guy who's on the rise, coming off the Euro Tour and playing more in America. So I'd look for him to potentially step up and maybe win a golf tournament, which could leapfrog him into some better things. So yeah, I mean, those are a couple guys. There's a lot of good young golfers out there, though. I mean, a lot of good young golfers. So it's hard to narrow it down. But there was a lot of good golf played last week by some young guys. So then of course you got your guys like Justin Thomas and Ricky, who, when you talk about a next major, those are the guys who need to step up and win a major, the do factor, especially with Ricky. So look for those guys in the next few majors.
Okay. Now we kind of already mentioned some of the guys that surprised us with their quick exits, Dave, DJ, Rory, and the company. What's next for these guys? Because even Spieth, he made the cut and he had a good Sunday, but they've for the most part, they've been scuffling quite a bit lately. They haven't been that dominant self. Like we've been saying, we've been seeing these young guys been doing really well in these tournaments, a lot more no names than big names. As much as we enjoy seeing a lot of new blood, we do also want to see our big boys doing well. What do you think's next for these guys? Are they just in a funk, or is there something wrong with these guys?
Well, I think with Rory, he's coming off the rib injury, so I just think it's a lack of not being able to play enough competitive golf to compete at a high level. I worry about him probably the least. Dustin, with DJ, it kind of goes back to the weird year. He was so dominant early on, won 3 straight tournaments, and then magically falls down some steps at Augusta and has not performed at a high level since. It's been a really, really odd year since the Masters for him. I don't know if he's working on his game or working on his mental game, or I just don't know with him. And Jordan is coming along. He's actually getting better. And it's easy to forget he won AT&T at Pebble Beach earlier this year. So it's not like he's in a big dry spell either. But he's been hitting the ball better lately. And then, of course, his putter falls off a little bit this past week, which is why he couldn't compete at a high level. But I don't worry about Jordan as much. Dustin's the one I'm kind of just like sitting back going, what happened?
Yeah, Dustin, I'm 100% with you there, because Dustin was so locked in. It was, if you could ever have like a version of the Terminator or something on a golf course, like he was literally, you couldn't stop him.
Yeah.
It was the closest thing to Tiger Woods we've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
It was, okay, Dustin's playing this weekend. At worst, he's top 5 in it, but most likely he's in the final pairing, and he's probably going to win this thing. This is what's happening. And every drive was a bomb. It was down the middle. It was crazy. And it's really confusing with him. I think it's a big mental thing with him right now. Say what you will about Augusta and the stairs. He just had another baby. I think he needs to get a lot right in between his ears right now. And then I agree, Rory just needs to get the health. And Spieth, it's funny. You hit it on the head. I've been in Spieth's corner. I still think he's a really, really good golfer. Many say some are like passing him by, which I guess they are in theory. But he's still, like you said, one of the best in the world still. And it's funny because he is hitting the ball a lot better than he has in a long time. And the thing that's always been his best asset is his putter, and it's the one that's failing him. Right. So if that putter shows up, and for instance, this weekend at the Travelers, you might listen to this after the weekend's over, but it's a shorter course. If his putter shows up, he is a great play this weekend. Like, he's phenomenal at this course.
It's hard to fade him or Rory at any point, or even DJ when they're playing. I think DJ's an easier fade at this point just because of, like you just said, the mental game. But Rory and Jordan can figure it out and turn it on at any point. It's just a matter of just tweaking stuff in their game, I'm pretty sure. And like I said, Rory coming off the injury, it just takes a little bit, knocking some rust off or whatever. A little bit of a different story. One guy you didn't put on there, though, was Jon Rahm. Did you see?
Good point. Good point.
Did you see how upset he got this past weekend?
Oh my God, that's like back-to-back weekends. This kid, yeah. Like I need to learn Photoshop because we could have a lot of fun with him. A lot of fun. I was a big Jon Rahm fan, and I still am, but his attitude lately is really starting to turn me off. It's really turning me off of him. Like there's a point where it's like, kid, give me a break. You're playing professional golf for a living. Calm down.
Yeah. I'm with you on that, dude. It's hard to watch because it's embarrassing. You're a millionaire at this point. You get to play, like you just said, you get to play golf professionally for a living. At some point, somebody needs to sit the kid down and say, listen, you're going to have to chill out. I understand you want to play perfect golf, but you're playing a game that you can never be perfect at. And that was kind of, I think, Jordan's problem last year is he got too down on himself, too hard on himself. He never acted quite the donkey that Jon Rahm has. But John, man, I read some stories about him last week. I mean, he was just, it was hard to watch, man.
Wasn't he like throwing bags and stuff? Like kicking stuff and basically crying. And it was bad.
Yeah.
I'm definitely next year when he comes to Pebble, I'm definitely following him, because if he gets wayward, I can't wait to see this head case explode in person. The cell phone will be out, folks. It's not Augusta. It will be out. I can't wait to see this. But yeah, that's a good one. I did forget that one.
Hopefully by then he figures it out. I mean, he needs to go see a sports psychologist or something, or his dad needs to sit him down. And
it's like
my dad did whenever I was 9 years old and I was throwing golf clubs. He said,
exactly.
When I throw golf clubs, you're not going to play golf.
Quit throwing golf clubs. It's when I coached Little League. When I coached Little League and the kids came back throwing their helmets, it was like, you pick that helmet up, and if you keep that shit up, you're not playing anymore.
That's exactly right.
It makes you think, is Rene Russo's character from Tin Cup still available? We need a golf swing coach. Yeah. Oh man. One last U.S. Open question. Next year, 2018, is at Shinnecock. It returns. Great course. Any early thoughts? Long ways away. There's gonna be a million different things that change our mind on things. Any early thoughts?
I got a feeling it's like USGA's revenge. I just think it's going to be really, really difficult. Last time they played it there, 2004, winning score was -4 by 2 shots. 1995, winning score was even. So the game's changed quite a bit since even 2004. Either way, I think it's one of those golf courses that they can probably make as hard as they want to, and I just got a feeling that they're going to be mad and wanting to show off a little bit.
Yeah, I think you're 100% correct. After the perceived nature of Erin Hills for many, they're going to want to get even. Let's talk some other PGA stuff here. Some crazy news, and I have a feeling we don't know the entire story to this, and I don't know if we will. But Phil Mickelson and Bones break up after, I think, was like 24 or 25 years together, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Phil came out with his, little message he put from his phone, and it's all sentimental and heartfelt and great. Buy into it what you wish. I haven't seen anything from Bones unless I missed it. I'm curious, is Bones just pissed because he made him walk Erin Hills for 3 days and then no-showed and he already knew he wasn't going to? Because that pissed me off.
That would be too. Now, Bones put out a statement. He put out a statement at the same time. They put out a statement basically simultaneously, both saying the same BS. I really, like you said, I think there's a lot more to it. Now, Phil's picking up his brother on the bag, which is he's an agent, I guess, I think he's the agent for John Rahm, and he used to be the golf coach at Arizona State. But yeah, really, really odd timing with Bones going to Erin Hills last week and was shown walking the golf course by himself, pretty much knowing that Phil wasn't going to be there. But I doubt Bones is that petty to really hold that against Phil. But either way, yeah, there's something I would say behind the scenes there, because that's like, it's like I don't know. It's like your mom and dad breaking up. It's like your mom and dad getting divorced.
But it is.
I mean, I've never not known.
25 years. It's crazy because we've seen Phil blow up at Bones so many times, and Bones is still there carrying his bag without a care in the world. I gotta know what it is. It's like. And Bones will be fine. He's one of the best caddies out there, so he'll pick up a bag somewhere. What makes me wonder is was he walking Erin Hills handing out business cards, and we just don't know about it? Or there's a lot of questions that can be asked on this one. It's very, very interesting that this all happened. And I always thought if Phil's brother was going to do it, he would have caddied for Rahm just because of their relationship. That's why it surprised me even more.
Right.
But there's a lot to keep an eye on there. Quick DFS questions. FanDuel's new format's been out a few weeks where you just pick 8 golfers for the entire tournament, kind of like DK, but 8 instead of 6. So it's not 4 for the first 2 days, 4 for the last 2 now. It's just 8 overall. I like it more because it's more like DK, but what are your thoughts on how it's going with FanDuel?
Yeah, I dipped the toes in a little bit last week. I don't mind it. It's definitely a different feel, different. You have to change up the strategy, I think, a little bit. I do think that going even more balanced than DraftKings is a great way to go, because if you're hitting 8 of 8, then you got a really, really good shot to have some good high finishes in there. And of course, it was carnage, last week, which changed a lot of what who ended up winning and that kind of thing. But it was fun to play on, and I'll keep dabbling a little bit over there. But their contests, they're just not reaching the DraftKings level. So until they do, they're not going to take a whole lot of my money.
Yeah, no, literally, I go big on DraftKings every week like you do. And then I think I had one lineup last week. First time I tried their new format. I'll probably do 1 or 2 every week. I did well. I did a cash lineup and a GPP. And I only remembered to do it because they sent me a free lineup thing also. So that was all I was always for it. But it wasn't bad. It was different. Their pricing's always really soft over there, which makes it intriguing. You can get creative.
Well, yeah, you have to find the values, and it's good, I think, to compare the two pricing between DraftKings and FanDuel, and you can find values on each site, because FanDuel. I think FanDuel has better pricing in that they don't try to force you to go stars and scrub. They try to force you to think about it a little bit more, and that if you want to fit in a Spieth this week, then you have to dip down quite a bit.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. Where, yeah, on DraftKings you can build some pretty good looking stuff regardless. Yep. Let's talk Millie Maker. With the carnage that took place, it got really interesting. We discussed before how the payout structure is garbage in the Millie Maker unless you win the $1 million. Why don't you break down the winning lineup for us?
Yeah, so it was Ricky, Brooks Koepka, Hideki, Trey Mullinax, Xander Schauffele, and Justin Thomas, which, apparently, so this guy, whoever won this, I ended up finding him on Twitter. He's got like 61 followers, and he was on there kind of talking a little bit of smack about people who use optimizers and stuff. He has a weird account over there. He doesn't tweet a whole lot, but anyway, so he picks those 6, wins $1 million, but he also had 4th and 5th in the Millie Maker. So it was good for like another probably $50 or something $1,000. You get 4th, you probably get like 25 or something. Either way, he went heavy, Trey Mullinax and Xander Schauffele. So I don't know what the dude was thinking. But afterwards there was the guys over at Fantasy Fanatics were tweeting out about kind of this guy's strategy, and somebody kind of accused him of cheating a little bit, but that's the kind of thing that you got to have. You got to have some weird stuff in order to win a 120,000 man tournament with $1 million up top. You got to get strange, and that's what he did. And he hit, and he gets to take home all the money.
Yep. I heard somewhere he max entered it, so that was a gamble out the gate. And to top it off for his max entry, I heard he had 70% Mullinax and 70% Xander.
Yeah,
that's how crazy he went.
I don't know. I don't know how he got there. I mean, I've seen some people talk about their strategy as far as those guys are bombers, but it's not like they've flashed any form in a regular tour event where you're like, yeah, they could probably compete at a U.S. Open when the pressure is 5 times greater than this normal golf tournament where they finish 30th. So, I mean, yeah, kudos to that guy. I mean, he hit it. I mean, and that's what it takes. I mean, you got to get weird.
Yep, that's what I tell people on my quick hits all the time. If you want to just win a little money, you can do this. But if you want to win the big thing, that is my phrase. You have to get weird. It's just the way you got to do it. You got to get weird.
You gotta think outside the box, man. When you're trying to hit these big time GPPs that everybody's, that are smaller buy-ins, and you're trying to hit the, you just got to do weird stuff. And that's the lineup. I mean, you can't hardly get much better than that.
Well, you had a bullet in the Thunderdome that you won in a qualifier. We talked about it on last week's pod. How did you do?
So it paid top 38, and I finished in the tie for 37th.
Nice.
By half a point. I ended up having 4 out of 6 make the cut. So kind of after Friday, the sweat to win the whole entire thing was over, even though only I think around 5-6% even got 5 out of 6. There was one 6 out of 6 lineup out of 200 in the Thunderdome. So anyways, by the time Paul Casey teed off on Saturday, I was in the top 10 winning like 25 grand. And as soon as he made a triple and then Justin Thomas scorched the earth, I dropped all the way out of the money. And then I ran back in on Sunday morning, ran out of holes with about 2 hours to go. And it was the worst sweat of my life. I can't even lie. I mean, I only had $12 in it, but 10 grand to me is a lot of money. And it was a awful sweat. Just figuring out, like, if he makes this putt and this guy moves back and yada, 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 points this, points that, you know, and I'm like, as Brian Harmon's making a bogey on the last, I'm like, God, please nobody around me have Hideki. Because if they did, that's 2 points or however many points, and it's going to bump me down. I mean, I'm right on the edge. One par wins me 10 grand. Worst sweat of my life. Worst sweat of my life.
But that's awesome, man. $12 wins you 10 grand. Congrats. That's awesome. That's what we play it for, though. Stuff like that.
Man. No, I mean, it was, I say, the worst sweat of my life. Just agony. Obviously, elation once all said and done to win 10 grand, but it was rough, man.
But that's what I told you. I said, I think it was Wednesday or whatever. I said, just make sure on Sunday that you have a nice place to sit down and a lot of place to pace. Because
funny story about that. So I go play golf with my dad Sunday morning. We go back to his house, and he lives out kind of in the middle of nowhere, and he has a satellite dish. And all of a sudden, all these thunderstorms keep popping up around us. So like golf comes in, and then it goes off for like 10 minutes, and then it goes in. And so finally I sat there for like 30 minutes, no golf. I was like, Dad, I've got to go. I've got it. He's like, I'm sorry, man. I was like, I'm just going to go home, dude. He's like, all right. Let me know how you do. So, yeah, kind of sucked, but yeah, I know, right? I was trying to hang out with my dad, freaking clouds. So,
but awesome, man. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Let's talk a little bit more about our buddy Joe Buck. I thought this would be a little fun one here because I heard a lot of complaining about him, and there's been another broadcaster we hear complain about quite a bit. So I wanted your take. Who's worse, Joe Buck or Johnny Miller?
That is a great question. They're a little bit different in that, you know, Miller does more of the commentary and Buck's kind of the color guy. But I'd rather listen to Joe Buck than Johnny Miller. One thing irks me about Johnny is he's kind of got this holier than thou attitude, and he even got salty after JT shot that 63 and basically said that it wasn't a U.S. Open course, because before that he was the record holder at the U.S. Open shooting 64, I think. And so he got salty and made a quote that basically wasn't a U.S. Open course to try to undercut what Justin Thomas just did, and I think that's a lot of BS. So I'd rather have Joe Buck all day. I cannot stand Johnny Miller and his negative attitude all the time. Who you got?
Yeah. Well, I'll be honest. I'm a little biased because I watch a lot of baseball, and Joe Buck rubs me the wrong way. But I've learned to appreciate Joe Buck as I've learned to listen to him outside of his broadcast. He's actually really funny, really sarcastic like myself. It's just when he gets in the booth, he's just a pompous jackass. It's annoying. But Johnny Miller, if people watch golf enough, Johnny Miller is the biggest know-it-all on the planet. And it's like you said, JT just shoots a 63. Let the guy have his moment. Like, give me a break. Like we said earlier, you see him shaking over his putt. It means a lot to the kid. Go away.
He should have shot 62. He missed another short eagle putt. But I mean, if he's watching golf and he's watching Justin Thomas hit these shots, it's not like Justin Thomas is getting lucky. He's throwing 300-yard 3-woods at the pin and sticking them. I mean, just
Yeah.
landing them right up there, and then Johnny Miller comes out, oh, it's not a U.S. Open golf course. Well, Johnny, it is. And your record's gone, bro. See ya.
That's what it is. Johnny's just pissed that if he wasn't on TV anymore, many would forget and not even know who he is.
No, that's the truth. That's the truth.
Because most of his past accomplishments don't even matter anymore. Like, they're just gone. Yeah. Like, he's got his golf courses that he does and everything, and literally the new era would not know who Johnny Miller is.
No clue. I mean, I wouldn't if he wasn't on TV. Now, one of my best friend's dad, I asked him, like, you like Johnny Miller? Yeah, I mean, I like him. He's always been that way, but he was at one point he was one of the best golfers in the world. But he's no Jack Nicklaus. He's no Arnold Palmer. I think he's got a lot of saltiness in him about the fact that those two guys are a lot bigger names than he will ever be.
Yeah. Maybe he's our version of John Rahm. Sorry, I just had to go there.
Who knows, man? Who knows?
Okay, I said earlier that the last 7 majors are won by first timers. Now, you already said Ricky and JT are the next ones up. They're the ones that are supposed to get it. Not counting them. Who's the next first timer?
I would look at a guy like Tommy Fleetwood. Very surprising. He can turn it on, but he can be a really, really bad golfer too. And Bernd Wiesberger been playing really, really good golf, and is one of those guys who potentially could surprise at a venue like the Open, or potentially the PGA Championship if he's over here, which I'm not really sure if he will be. But another guy, man, and I'm gonna stay on both these guys. And I talked about an article this week. Bud Cauley, I think he's a really, really good golfer. Kevin Tway, if he ever figures out his short game, is going to be one of the best golfers. Those two guys right there, I think, could be, the kind of sneaky type of guys who get hot like Brooks, and kind of overpower a golf course. So I like those two as kind of the, I guess sneaky kind of guys or under the radar young guys, young guns.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Tway. And one other one you did not mention that I keep my eye out on every week, even though he killed me this last week, Kisner. I'm big on Kisner. I think he's so close to being that consistent weekly guy that's near the top of leaderboards. He's right there, I think.
Yeah, I've already heard his name floated a couple times for the Open because they just came out with those odds right after the U.S. Open. So, yeah, I mean, Kisner, he's got the low ball flight, and he can work it left to right. So if he can just figure out how to putt.
Yeah, no shit. So the next major, we keep saying it, is the Open Championship. The Open Championship, people. I still want to call it the British Open. I'm not sure why they changed it. If you know why, let me know, because I hate that it's the Open Championship. It's the British Open, people. Come on. Let's keep some tradition, damn it. It's going back to Royal Birkdale for the 10th time. It's kind of one of the cool things about the British Open is that it kind of rotates back through all the old courses, which make it so great. It's in July 20th through the 23rd. Any early thoughts on the Open?
Yeah, so I went, as well as prepping for this today and kind of just looked at the golf course, and it reminds me a lot of Erin Hills, your classic link style golf course. Narrower fairways and probably bigger greens, and it's going to play a lot shorter than I'm sure Erin Hills did. But this is like you just said. This Royal Birkdale has held more championships and international events since World War II than any other course in the world. So a lot of tradition and a lot of things to also look at in comparison to whenever we started research for it. It's been played here before, so we can figure out the kind of golfer that does well at this course. So yeah, really looking forward to it. My only gripe with the Open Championship is A, they changed it from the British Open, and then B, it's on starting at like 1 o'clock in the morning. At least you're on the West Coast.
Yeah, I get it. I guess I get it at 10 o'clock, but like the Sunday final round, if I want to watch the later pairings, I'm screwed. It's either just stay up on Saturday or I got a game plan.
That's the only thing I hate about it too. I like watching it, but I can never get into it like I can the U.S. Open or the Masters, the PGA Championship, because I can't stay up all night and watch golf and just fall asleep.
Yeah, that is the problem. It's really fun to watch the Open too.
It's always good golf.
There's something about it. It's good golf. It's kind of like, it sounds weird because it's kind of like dreary and old and gray, but it's really cool to watch. It's just different. And I believe ESPN usually has the first 2 rounds, and it goes to ABC in the past. I don't know who has it now. And they actually have done a decent job in the past. I don't know what the plan is this year, but at least on the opening rounds, because they realize it's so late and many people don't care about who's talking, they usually do a pretty good job of showing coverage.
Yeah, this is one that I can see that Fox maybe potentially could pick up in the future, because I think it is still ABC, ESPN, if I remember correctly. That's my memories of it. I don't know if it changed, but.
Yeah, with all their budget cuts, this could be next in line. That's for sure, because Tarico's gone. SVP is the last man standing, pretty much. And
Tarico's really good, too. I like Tarico, and I always enjoyed him on the golf coverage. So that's going to suck if that's
not bad at all. Well, all right, Jesse, any last words on the recap here?
No, man. Glad to be here. We're going to keep it moving with the picks and trying to hit some winners, and I hope everybody can gather a little bit of knowledge, strategy, and maybe find some plays in what I put out every week. So happy to be here and happy to do it.
Yep. Awesome, Jesse. Thanks for joining us. Remember, you can find Jesse on Twitter at DFSGolfGods. His weekly DFS preview is out on thesportsdgens.com. Always really, really good stuff. He's got the Travelers preview out there, but by the time you get this, it'll have teed off. So look for next week's preview when it's out. It's usually out every Tuesday, like clockwork.
Yep.
So check it out. But again, Jesse, thanks for joining us, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on, Bubba. I'll talk to you soon.
Yep. Everybody, this was Bench with Bubba, episode 42, U.S. Open recap, and much, much more. We'll catch you guys later. Out.